You know where Young Harris is, on Prince Avenue, right at Chase, you know, so they're right there. So,
Yeah, we're a block, I think, block or two away from Dunkin' Donuts, my favorite place to eat. But right next to it is Sparrow's Nest. And it's not the first time I arrived. My wife and I joined Young Harris 2 years ago, July 1st of 2019. And the first 6 months I spent literally every day, about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, running homeless people off campus. There must have been 50 to 60 of them on our campus. We had to put up security lights. We found needles, drugs, knives, underclothing, feces, you name it, they left it there. Some of our members at our church are a lot older. They're in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. A lot of widow ladies, and I'm an advocate to make sure that we take care of our widow ladies. Several of them were being accosted by some of the homeless begging for money. So I'm also a chaplain, by the way, for the Athens-Clarke County Police Department, so I have a full uniform, and I carry. And so what I was doing for the first 6 months was literally just going out and call the police, dial 911, they'd come up, show up, and remove them. It took us about 6 months to clean up the act, but it still happens. Last month we had 3 homeless people show up. One decided, I think my wife and I decided to go out for a walk. We just finished eating some automatic pizza. We just finished eating some automatic pizza and I ate too much. And she said, let's go for a walk. I said, hey, I'm game. So we decided to walk around the property, and we have a huge bell on the front lawn of the church that used to be in the steeple. It's now out the front. And we heard the bell being running, I mean, just frankly, I mean, just like a madhouse. It was just going off, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. So we came around the corner, and there was this older lady, she was homeless. And we approached her, and she started screaming and cussing at us and threatened my wife to kill her, burn the church down. She said we stole her suitcase. Where's the suitcase? She left it on the property of the church. And we had a lawn care maintenance guy that takes care of the property. And more than likely, he probably saw it, or some homeless person stole it, because they steal it from each other anyway. And we tried to calm her down, and she didn't care. And I finally called the police, and when I called the police, she decided she wanted to run and take off. But she had literally threatened to kill my wife and burn the church down. And she just said, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill you. And when the police showed up, we had her arrested for threatening to kill us and bodily harm. And so they took her and called away. I asked her before they hauled her away what she knew. I know pretty much who's new and who's not in Athens was homeless, and I know who pretty much abuses the system. And it's hard for a church, because it's an oxymoron for us, because we're supposed to be a church to help these people. That's right. And we want to help these people. And we know that there is a homeless situation, but we're also well aware that it's an abused situation at this point. And so she said, well, they dropped me off here from Snellville. And they said, this is the place to be, that they have plenty of food, housing, and all this for you. And she said, I've been on the streets for 2 days. I can't get anywhere to sleep. So they left. So fast forward to this month. We actually have a private school now, Double Helix STEAM School is on our campus upstairs. We have 60 students up there. We brought them in about a year and a half ago. And so they're using our facility, and they use the front lawn to do their projects and events, because they use it for their arts and crafts and science labs, stuff like that. And every once in a while, Sheila, the new director of the school, will call me and say there's homeless people sleeping on the front porch of the school. And I had to go out and put my uniform and go out. A couple of times I went out, and they got belligerent with me, start cussing at me and swearing at me. So I no longer walk out unless I have a uniform on, because it's a deterrent for them to react violently towards me the minute they see my uniform on. And we began to set ourselves to them, and we'd go out, and I'll say to them again, how long have you been here? We just got dropped off. Like Gwinnett. We were just dropped off last night. We were told that we could have housing, free housing, and they will take care of us if we come here. They just drop us off here at the corner of Chase and Prince, because the Shepherd's is up the street, Sparrow's Nest is up the street. And so they just drop them off there. The problem is they don't go up to the Sparrow's Nest, because by the time they're dropped off at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, the only place for them to go is on our property. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning, when their school's coming in, we have to attend to them and deal with them. And so this morning, I got a phone call at 5:30 this morning. Pastor Lewis, there's two people sleeping on the front porch of the Whittemore building. I don't know if you know their campus much. We have the sanctuary over here, and then there's an attachment in the middle, which is the bell hall, and then the Whittemore building is the historical house that's attached to the church that was built in the 1800s. That's the Whittemore building. She said there's 2 people sleeping on the front porch of the Whittemore's building, and our students are starting to arrive. Can you please get them off? So immediately I put my uniform on, called 911, and the problem is now 911, the police department are inundated with being cross guards. Did y'all know that? The city has made them become cross guards for the schools, because they will not hire cross guards. So we actually had one on Chase, but it took them a lot longer to show up on our property. When I began to walk across the lawn going toward the sanctuary, I noticed an older guy got up, started walking down the steps, left his stuff there. He walked up to the bush, and he was about to unzip himself and go ahead and use the restroom on our lawn. And I said, put it back in your bags and get upstairs and get your stuff and leave. And I told him, if you come back on the property, we'll have you arrested. You're trespassing to the private school here. And he said, what? I don't have nowhere to go. I said, go to City Hall. They just got a $60 million grant. Go knock on the door. The bus is free. Tell them that you heard they have a $60 million grant by the federal government for homeless people to shelter them, and tell them you want part of your money. And he said, oh, that's a great deal. As I began to walk back toward the Whittemore building, when I caught my eye on the other 2 people sleeping on the front porch of the Whittemore building. It was a guy, about this big around, literally this thin, about this small. Crack, either crack, meth, or something. She was on drugs, obviously she was on drugs. And I didn't recognize them. I knew they were new. The older guy was new also. And I said, you need to get off the property, please, vacate the property. You've got 5 minutes, or for 5 minutes before the police show up. If you're still here, they'll arrest you. And he said, oh, we had nowhere to go. We got here last night. They dropped us off at the hospital. The hospital wouldn't help us. We had nowhere to go, nowhere to sleep. I said, well, I can't help you with that. I have a private school. I have 60 kids on this campus. You need to pack up and leave. I said, you guys are new, aren't you? He goes, yes. I said, where'd you come from? And he said, another town. And they dropped them off at the hospital. And they said, stay here. This place has money for you. They got shelter for you. 2 weeks ago, when I met a guy that told me the same thing, you know what he told me? It was actually a female. She had a black top on. And she sat out in front of the lawn asleep. I thought she was dead when we found her. She said that when that police department brought her here, dropped her off, and told her they had free housing, she went into one of the homeless shelters the night before and was kicked out the next day because the entire shelter turned out positive with COVID.
Oh, no.
I said, how many people were in that shelter? She said, 22 of us. I said, what happened to the 22 people who were positive with COVID? She said, they released us to the community. So you now have 22 positive homeless case people with positive COVID cases literally walking the streets of Athens. So I said, you guys are new? He goes, yeah, we were dropped off last night. I said, well, I'll tell you what, go to City Hall, I'll give you the address, knock on the door, beat on the door if you have to, ask for the mayor, and tell him you want part of your money of that federal grant that he received, the $60 million that they received, and you want a shelter now. And just keep on beating on the doors, keep knocking on the doors, and tell all of your friends to go to City Hall. The next step, I believe we can get the mayor's address and just send them there.
Yeah.
And see how he likes it. But that was my morning this morning, and it's a constant thing. It's nothing new. The ones that we deal with at this point now are new people that are being dropped off here, and they drop them off on Prince and Chase every time. Either Gwinnett drops them off, Morrisville, Snellville, all the even Atlanta is dropping them off here. And they're telling them that the mayor is telling them that they have money for them, and they have housing for them, and they have a place for them to stay. And when we only know that the truth is they're only building a development for 30 people, and that's 50 people there. So that was my experience.
Yeah.